Struggling to discuss sex and intimacy with your partner?
Not feeling met, seen, or heard in your relationships?
I'm Janelle.
And I'm Andrea. We're two midlife mavericks sharing our own experiences.
Messy AF and no regrets.
With marriage, divorce, polyamory, and pleasure.
We've learned that when you're brave enough to figure out what you want and ask for it,
with partners, friends, family, and most importantly, yourself,
you'll feel more alive and free.
Question everything, especially your mother's advice.
There's no rom-com formula for this, but don't panic.
Being alone matters. Honey, I can't miss you if you don't leave.
What if your breakup could be your breakthrough?
Our podcast is for brave hearts.
Anyone who seeks or has found the courage to confront their fears and limiting beliefs about breaking societal norms in the spirit of finding their truth.
If you're seeking permission to be brave in your relationships
and want to feel less alone along the way, we got you.
Bravehearts, it has been a while since I have had a conversation with a learned person regarding ancient Greek philosophy. And this episode is wild because it really, our guest, as a Braveheart, just enlightened me to our whole experience of permission to be human and being human has been a question that has been asked for thousands and thousands of years.
It's true. Michael Scott Overholt. Just wow. Like so many mic drop moments, so much wisdom. What if you were honest with yourself? What if being uncertain didn't mean that you did anything wrong? Mm-hmm. What if you can ask what if and live in the wonder and awe and the blue of longing instead of wanting to close that up, wanting to resolve it, wanting to solve it? What if you can be lost and stay in that lostness? This is what you get today with our Braveheart.
Along with like really, really like honest vulnerability from someone who discloses like parts of himself that he does not like and is willing to share because he hopes that someone else, including his children, will have permission to fuck up too. I mean,
yeah,
really
exactly.
An incredible permission field.
Anyway, oh my gosh, listen to this episode.
Yeah, enjoy. Welcome to Permission to Be Human. I am Janelle.
And I'm Andrea.
And we are midway or more into our 12-part series of season 4, which is how to build and maintain a relationship with ourselves. And we're very excited to have a Braveheart with us today. As listeners know, we interview experts, each other, and also Bravehearts. And the Bravehearts are the people who are just regular folks, just like all of us, who have lived an experience for themselves of building a relationship. And so we're really excited to have Michael Scott Overholt with us today.
It's good to be here.
Thank you, Michael, for coming on today. So Michael and I know each other. We actually met on LinkedIn because LinkedIn works now to help people bring people together. and we became very good friends and have bonded over the last couple of years. And so, and I have been impressed by Michael's journey as a Braveheart and as someone who has really built a relationship with himself. So, Michael, let's dive in and talk a little bit about where you are now and how you feel like you have built a relationship with yourself. Like, where did that start and why did that start?
Well, yeah, I think the roots of it go back to, well, at least doing it like deliberately would have been probably during graduate school. I got introduced to the idea of the care of the self in ancient philosophy. That's what I was studying. But I didn't, I thought of it primarily as like simply as a personal development concept. Originally, it was much more of a political idea. It was, I educate myself so that I can participate in the politics of the Greek polis. And so it was a way of becoming plugged into your local community and being a leader in the local community. That was the whole purpose of it. And only rich people could get an education, and only rich people could really participate in politics. So that's where I was just kind of fascinated with this idea, how it had morphed over the millennia, and now there was this huge push on, self-care, and I was interested in that because that's a direct translation of the Greek epimeleia, heautou, and so that's where my interest originally began.
Can I pause you there for a second?
Yeah.
So what were you studying in grad school?
I was studying classics, Greek and Latin, so I focused primarily on Platonic philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Where were we with the question?
Yeah, from there, after grad school.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that was just a kind of like this interest. I was like, okay, so I always wanted to look at it in terms of like the ancient to the present. And one of the big differences I saw was that the ancient was very much focused on it being like, you do it for yourself so that you can be that way for others. And I remember one time getting on a plane and like the thing about like, make sure to put your oxygen mask on first before you help somebody else. I was like, oh, now we're starting to see this play out a little bit. I would call it the practicality of the ancient idea of self-care, where it's like you take care of yourself so that you can help others, playing out in things like oxygen masks. I think there is even something of maybe like the fireman's rule is kind of tied to this as well, where you make sure that you're able to do something first so that you can help other people. And so that was just kind of reaffirming to me, and it helped me as I was wading into books and podcasts on personal development. When they were talking about self-care specifically, what was the goal of that? Like, at what point did they introduce the idea of, okay, so now you're better equipped to help other people, or did they not? And more often than not, I actually saw a lot of self-care just really seem to go infinitely down in towards the self, and not really ever like pull its head up to be like, okay, now how does this actually contribute to the lives and impact the lives of people around us?
Yeah. Just wow. I just want to say wow to that. I love that someone here is studying history. That's amazing.
Little academic voice is nice, right? Beautiful. So then how did you start applying that? And what, like, you got interested from this source. Mm-hmm. And then when and how did that start to play out for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it certainly got worse before it got better. What I began to realize was that the idea of self-care that I began to see as being the most compelling, like the compelling option for me, included things like mindfulness and practices that really did help me ask some hard questions. And one of the things that became pretty evident to me was that I was not particularly honest with myself. And this is something that ended up having some really big consequences in my life. I mean, the long story short, and I don't know how, I'll let you guys determine like how far you necessarily want to go into this, but me being dishonest with myself led to me being dishonest with other people. And in 2019, I ended up having an affair and hurt a ton of people in that I was always the person who had done things the right way. It seemed like, or at least on the outwardly, I'd really done things right. I had a beautiful family and gotten my education, with their help, I had gotten a PhD. Really everything looked great on the outside. Internally, like I'm imploding, and that was, I guess I didn't realize how much of an implosion was taking place until it was pretty late, and so that kind of that began a journey that was very different from what I expected life to be. And in one summer, I found myself divorced and then jobless. My teaching position was discontinued at the University of Iowa because they had budget cuts and they let go. So that began a period of what I call lostness. I use the language of Rebecca Solnit quite a bit here with her book, Field Guide to Getting Lost. I think this is something that Andrea and I have talked about for hours and hours and hours. And that's when the idea of like self-care not only became, I actually had to kind of step back and use it more as like a survival guide than anything. So a lot of the habits that I had created that were good habits, like exercising every day, being good with a sleep routine, recognizing when I was just overstimulated and needed to step away from technology or whatever. These became things that, I mean, I don't think I'm being too dramatic in saying they really saved my life. They kept me out of depression. I haven't struggled with like any sort of substance abuse, or anything from, what was a very drastic turn of events in my own life.
Wow. So, I mean, I'm hearing that I think you're equating building a relationship with yourself to self-care in this way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely, that was a massive part. I think, I feel like I want to be careful with this because I don't want to over romanticize a very destructive time in my life. But, it was when the house of cards that I realized I had built that was very much focused on external appearances and making sure that everything looked good, that I looked good on the outside. It was during that time it just really came crashing down. So,
yeah. Janelle, do you
I just want to call out, just thank you for your honesty, right? A lot of times people talking about their experiences, especially when you've got experts saying, to do it this way, we don't actually let ourselves share the parts of us that we don't like, right? That you're not proud of.
Yeah, definitely not proud of this part of my life.
Yeah. And so, but yet what I'm hearing is that also led you, right? So to who you've become today, right? Which we're going to get to, but I'm assuming a version of yourself that you do really like. And what I'm holding and hearing is just the compassion of this happened and I'm not proud of it. I don't like it. And it still was in service. And I get to hold myself with forgiveness and compassion through all that. And I know for me, and I would think this is true for other Bravehearts listening, is that I feel less alone. I'm like, oh, Michael wasn't perfect. I don't have to be perfect. It's okay that I wasn't, that I did something that I fucked up on. So thank you for meaning that.
Sure.
Michael, I'm curious if there's anything you had to unlearn as a result of this process or during this process.
Oh my God, that's a massive question. The short answer is yes. Let's figure out which one do you go with.
Tell us all of them.
Yeah. I think the most relevant one at least to begin with would be having lived a life where it was very much shame-based. And I want to be careful to define what I mean by that. What I mean by it is I I equated my personal worth with what people thought of me. And I wouldn't have said that I did this on purpose necessarily. And it would be pretty easy to kind of blame it on a religious culture that I was raised in. That I would certainly say that didn't help. I think another part of it was just kind of my own personality, like kind of the way that I'm bent. I'm an Enneagram 1, and I'm very performance driven. And I also enjoy the things that I would apply myself to. Like I loved languages. I loved writing. I was doing all the things that I really did love. But I certainly equated my own sense of like self-satisfaction with what other people were giving to me in terms of, what they thought of me. And when I found myself kind of in a place where all of that was removed, where, things were public, things were known, things were, it was clear that I had made some massive mistakes. There was no like coming back from that. And so having to put it in terms of having to unlearn something, I think I had to unlearn how I thought of myself, like how I found like some energy to do the things that were necessary. I always exercise. I mean, here's a good example. I always exercised because I loved the feeling of it, for sure. And so, one of the differences I think that I had to navigate was, when I'm with certain people that I can definitely feel the heat from. Like I can feel like there's tension there because they are uncomfortable with me. They're uncomfortable with the decisions that I've made. I had to learn to really just kind of sit with that and recognize that at this point there wasn't a whole lot there wasn't really anything I could do. I had to just recognize that I'm human. I made mistakes. These are not things I'm proud of. They're part of my story, and I'm not going to avoid them either. And so being able to, I think, find some strength in just the honesty of that was the thing I had to unlearn. It felt like a bone being broken and having to be reset, though, over and over and over again.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great metaphor. Yeah. So I'm hearing that, like, I heard you say earlier, you weren't being honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something Janelle and I have talked a lot about with our own relationship with ourselves. And then I also heard you say you had to unlearn how you thought of yourself. Mm-hmm. That is a doozy. That's huge.
Yeah, it's ongoing. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I can very easily kind of, in this second half of life, I could like transplant myself, just start all over in a place where nobody knows me. And so, try to kind of avoid that past, but I haven't found that to be particularly helpful, and it doesn't go away. I mean, even like preparing for the conversation today, I took a walk and I was like, God, I feel shitty. Like, I know that this is this is a yucky part of me that I'm going to be talking about. And, but there, at some point, probably around Ewell Street here in Iowa City, I was like, no, but the honesty is always valuable. And, and I think one of the things that has kind of pushed me through more than anything, I might break up over this one. I don't know of many personal examples in my own life where I saw somebody really fuck up and then like come through it and be able to really talk about it openly. And, sometimes I wonder, when my kids make some sort of big mistake, maybe not the same one that I make, maybe, but they could do something that publicly, everything seems to be public these days, right? With social media, it's all recorded, it seems like. What would it mean to them to know that, that their dad acknowledged that he screwed up, but then was able to stay with it and kind of deepen his relationship with himself, but he didn't just quit. And I think that's maybe that's the ancient self-care part of it coming through again, where it's okay, I got to learn this because there might be some people really close to me that I care about really deeply who may have to walk through something at least similar, in terms of recognizing deeply disappointing other people, and what that could look like.
Yeah, and I actually teared up with you as you were sharing that, because what I'm feeling is, oh my God, this is the role model we need. Yes. Right? The role model in our life isn't that us as humans are perfect humans. It's the role models that I feel that every generation of us has been missing out on is those that are acknowledging that we are actually imperfect humans, but we care about others and we apologize, we learn from our mistakes, and then and it's not that it's not a moving on, it's I just think it's so incredibly profound, this acknowledgement of the self-care as a culture or community or collective learning, that you can see that your kids will actually grow and give more forgiveness and permission to themselves when they do fuck up, because they will, because they're also human. Because you are walking that path ahead of them. Really beautiful.
Yeah, it's I want to be careful at this because it doesn't, it's not a heroic thing. It's I think the goal is just recognizing the human part of it. There's nothing, there shouldn't be, I don't think, if I can should on all of us, there shouldn't be anything heroic about honesty. But I think there is something more profound in recognizing that honesty begins with ourselves before we can really be honest with other people. So,
how do you feel differently having gone through this? And I know you're still in it, but having begun this journey, how do you feel differently in your being, in your human?
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe this is a second thing I had to unlearn, but I think it addresses what you're talking about. So, one of the things that I got really damn good at in my first half of life was telling myself what I'm feeling doesn't matter, emotionally, or it was my emotions often weren't as big as my co-parents, and this is not blaming her. This is more my reaction to it was, when we're feeling too strong, really strongly about a particular topic, both of us do, and we're in disagreement with that, I often would pull mine back as a result. And that was one way it manifested itself. There are other ways that it manifested itself in terms of if I was disappointed in something, not really sitting with that sense of disappointment, but just squashing it down and finding a different thing to do, not staying present with it. If I had done something even small that I had disappointed somebody around me, whether my parents or a colleague or a fellow student, because I was in school for a long time, there was always a tendency to try to address the emotion, to kind of push it away, push it down. So one of the things I had to unlearn was the way that I responded to emotions that I didn't like. And And mindfulness was really important with this. Mindfulness gave me the ability to say, all right, I can feel, this emotion, whether it be anger or whether it be just sadness or disappointment, I can sense it here. Or it could be like a sense of, I had disappointed somebody else and I felt shame, or something like that. Being able to sit with it and recognize, is there something wrong here, or am I just feeling this sense of uncertainty, which might be another topic to talk about. But it helped me evaluate my internal landscape in a much more profound way. And that has actually been really enjoyable. I've learned to lean into discomfort. I've learned to lean into difficult conversations. And sometimes it's simply as simple as acknowledging to the other person that I'm in the same room with, like, okay, I can sense, what's going on here for me personally. I'm just going to name it. And I don't really like this emotion. I'm not exactly sure where it's coming from. But this is what I'm feeling. And so, that, to answer your question, like, how is it different? I would say that one of the main ways it's different is that, being able to lean into some discomfort, sitting with it. I don't want to say that I'm okay with it, but I can say I'm not necessarily running away from it too.
Like, it's been such an honor to witness your journey and transformation, Michael. And I hear you saying you're leaning into the discomfort and you're naming the feelings and emotions that are coming up, even if you don't know what to do with them, even if they're uncomfortable, even if they're confusing, but acknowledging them, sitting with them, naming them. Yeah. So beautiful. You also mentioned the word uncertainty. Can you say a little bit more about that massive
You mean word? We haven't talked about it enough, Andrea?
Yeah. Let's go over it again.
Yeah. This was really fascinating to me. And I recently had a conversation with one of the dads on my son's baseball team about this, how this played out in his life. But I started looking into some psychology studies, actually this is neuroscience, studies on stress. And I was interested in it because this is something that Andrea and I have talked a lot about, was the way that so many of us in midlife all of a sudden find ourselves in places we've never been before. And maybe we find that, the rules we played by during the first half of life, we just suddenly realize they no longer apply. Like they don't work. And we're in this different space, and it's hard. It's uncertain. And I was interested in that's what took me to some of the neuroscience journals that are really, really more and more just defining stress or anxiety. They're defining anxiety as just uncertain about what is going to happen, right? One study, and I cannot name it, one study acknowledged that in general, humans, whenever we feel a sense of uncertainty, we sense that we've done something wrong. All right, there's almost like a sense of guilt that comes along with this. And in religious culture, this can be very damaging because there's... I think the evangelical movement, and I don't mean to get too religious here, but I think the evangelical movement is this hyper anxious response to uncertainty. Like, they've got to be certain about what's going to happen after death. And even as somebody, I've studied, religion for, like the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament Bible. You look at the Hebrew Bible, there's no concept of hell at all. That was a Greek idea. The Greeks were very concerned about suffering eternally. And so when St. Paul starts evangelizing, trying to get everybody to follow this guy named Jesus, he's using that culture, and he starts talking a lot about hell and about like you don't want to spend eternity being like suffering. Here's a way out. So
Oh my God.
I think I'll just drop that and we'll walk on from it. But
Yeah.
for me, for myself, being able to address this idea of like uncertainty in terms of all I'm feeling right now is I don't know what's going to happen. I didn't do anything wrong. I don't like feeling uncertain. I would much rather have a much more sure understanding of where my income is coming, what is my purpose, these sorts of things. And being able to sit with that sense of discomfort has been probably one of the biggest learning curves of my 40s, is that that there are gifts of uncertainty. Uncertainty, it gives you the chance to ask, what if this might be the best thing that ever happened? What if this place that I don't know where I'm at is actually going to provide an opportunity that I would not have gotten anywhere else, and so that's been, that's the change. It's just a change from being anxious to being like a sense of wonder or awe about, okay, I'm feeling really, really uncertain here, but what if? Can I ask that question? Trying to develop that habit to address the uncertainty.
I sit in the anxiety, and then Janelle says, but what if? What if this is just amazing, Andrea? What if this is the opportunity? What if you can be in awe about this? What if we can wonder? I'm like, oh my God, shut up. I'm suffering, right? But yes, you're totally right, of course. But the uncertainty, linking that to something I did wrong is really interesting. I don't think we've talked about that before. Right? I've never made that connection. But I'm feeling into that, and I feel like there's like guilt and shame about not knowing it's going to be okay, or knowing exactly what's going to happen. Janelle, do you have anything on that? Or do you have any questions?
Yeah, well, I'm laughing at your comment was like, oh yeah, I just like I throw out like the what if, because just this weekend for myself, I was in a situation where I was feeling like anxious, sad, confused, but really uncertain is at the root of it. Is that based on what you're saying? But because I was feeling uncertain, I also then thought I did something wrong. And so I'm really feeling into that. So Andrea, thanks for the reminder of what I would say to myself. In the moment, because I was like, and really feeling that I'm like, oh, I did it. And I knew enough to be like, I know I'm telling myself a story, but I still feel really fucking shitty. But really putting like, yeah, I just feel like you just like connected some dots here that feel really significant.
Yeah. Amazing. So, and back to the building a relationship with yourself, I think being in this uncertainty is just part of it, right? And it's never going to go away from what I understand, but we're just managing it better. Would you agree with that, Michael? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. I mean, it feels like it's a regularly occurring lesson to learn. About a year ago, I had an interesting experience in San Francisco that helps kind of cement this for me. I was out at a conference. It was a product launch / conference in Silicon Valley. We had just taken on a new client with our company, and they had this in San Francisco. And so I had the chance to go, and my flight got delayed long enough that I actually had to spend another night there. And I decided to take a walk. I love long walks. I like the idea of wandering. And I was going up the coast, and I remember feeling, you know what? I've never been here before, and I feel so alive. Like I'm on an adventure. I've got Google Maps. I know the direction I'm going to go. There's the ocean beside me. It's California weather. Like it's dry. There's all kinds of sunshine. There's mountains. There's ocean. It was beautiful, and I remember feeling the sense of this kind of uncertainty feels like adventure. Like this is a fun version of uncertainty. And the question I was asking myself is, why can't I do this every single time I feel uncertain? And we have this like split second decision, it feels like, where when we are faced with uncertainty, it's whether it's uncertainty of whether we should look in our bank account right now, or our uncertainty of how we're going to navigate a difficult conversation. There's this moment where it's like we have a chance to really kind of go deeper into that fear and anxiety, or we can ask the question of, what if, the adventure question, the wonder question. And that little trek along the sea was a really vivid and powerful experience to remember that, we have that opportunity every time we face uncertainty. Sometimes it just seems a little easier to do than others. It's not always, walking in beautiful sunshine in California. Sometimes it feels like walking in negative 20-degree weather in Iowa,
Wow. How is it that I'm learning from you, Michael? And I've already learned so much from you, but I'm learning more in this, in this 40 minutes. So this relates also to lostness, which I think, we've discussed a lot in Rebecca Solnit's book, The Field Guide to Getting Lost. So I'm hearing that you value being a little lost, a little uncertain, a little not sure of the directions.
Yeah. I think one of the main reasons is that uncertainty is in a tension. Uncertainty is always in this tension of trying to like undo itself, right? Which is a very similar state that desire holds. Desire is in this constant tension of trying to resolve itself, to fulfill its desire, right? And one of my favorite analogies that Solnit uses in that book is like if we look in the distance, we can see like this blue, right? This blue that when it's on the horizon. I don't know if like it's really really prominent, like the Blue Ridge Mountains. When you're far away from the mountains, you can see them. They look blue, but if you get right up on them, you take a hike, you drive, you get up on them, they're green, they're brown, they're all these things. The blueness has actually moved on further. And I feel like there's a similar tension between uncertainty and desire, in that we're constantly trying to satisfy them or to undo them in some ways, and with the chance, with what uncertainty offers us, a chance to look for opportunity as opposed to simply respond out of fear. I've never made any great decisions when I've made them out of fear. I have made some great decisions when I've been uncertain, and I've decided to just try to find a way to respond in love at all costs, and short of like drastic situations, that tends to be the usual. We have a chance to we always have a chance to love. We always have a chance to learn. Always have a chance to ask, what could come from this. Sometimes it just takes a lot of effort. I think our default is to be afraid and to protect ourselves and to shy away from uncertainty, and finding the strength to kind of step into it, and to recognize that there are opportunities there, even when you're feeling lost, is very valuable to learn.
I am curious about what do you see the relationship is between uncertainty and curiosity?
Well, uncertainty is simply the place we find ourselves in. Curiosity is the muscle, I guess, of our perspective. We can build it. One of the things I love about curiosity is that curiosity does not succumb to what's it called? Hedonic.
Oh yeah.
I'm getting the word wrong, but it's hedonic adaptation.
Hedonic adaptation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's not like a drug or like caffeine where we have to have more and more of it to feel the effect of it. It's actually the opposite. We can develop a sense of awe and wonder that we're more quick to move into and feel. And I think like uncertainty offers us a daily opportunity to exercise that muscle is how I understand it.
So I want to touch on you talked about Rebecca Solnit talking about the blue right in the distance, and this is one of the things when Michael and when we first spoke, and I was like, oh, do you know about the blue of longing? And then I said, have you heard of Rebecca Solnit's book? And you're like, oh my God. And then you went and got it, and we came back, and that was the beginning. Right? And this is a concept I've come back to again and again in my life, because I found Rebecca Solnit's book at a hostel in Jordan in like 2007.
Wow.
Literally, totally serendipitous moment. Started reading the book. I was like, this was planted by the universe for me. I must be on punked. Like someone is filming my life. But further is that Michael also introduced me to the poet Padraig Otoma. Am I saying that right?
Padraig Otoma? Yeah.
Padraig
Yeah,
Otoma.
almost, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I listened to him speak in Denver recently at the library.
Oh, what a sweet man. Love him. Yeah.
Sweet man. Amazing couple of hours of my life. And he said, he presented a story about really wanting to get some better luggage, right? Because he was traveling a lot and his suitcase was worn out. And so he was saving up for it. He was like, I'm going to wait 6 months, until I can get the really nice suitcase. And he was looking and picking out the colors, and then he finally got the suitcase and he put it away downstairs, and he's like, oh, I miss looking forward to and longing for my suitcase.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, that's it. Right. And so can we be okay with that longing and the uncertainty and plunge ourselves into it to feel alive instead of wanting to solve it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a very strong tendency to try to resolve it, right? Whether it's the uncertainty or whether it's just the desire. I don't know. I guess I would be interested in your perspective, Andrea, Janelle, what might be the opportunities of just not fulfilling that desire. I know that for me, when I think of it in terms of uncertainty, uncertainty is a chance to let my imagination kind of come up with scenarios and ideas and possibilities. I have to be very present in the moment to adequately address the uncertainty and the direction that I need to go necessarily. So I guess maybe I would be curious to know what your thoughts are on hanging out in the tension a little longer when it comes to things like desire.
And if we can just frame that too if we can just hang out in the desire, is that being in relationship with ourselves? Janelle, what do you think?
I have a example that I have a comment lover who we interviewed on this podcast, and he and I had one date. It was in February.
Can you
and then he moved
explain the
away.
comment? Yeah.
A comma is someone who where we just see each other on occasion. Like it's like when our paths cross, and it's essentially like a fuck yes for both of us, right? And scheduling between, we thought we were going to see each other in April. It didn't work out. We thought we were going to see each other in May, and we ended up. I found myself in this state of longing, and we were communicating a little bit. But what I thought was sweet, and it was reciprocal, like we both wanted to see each other, so it wasn't like unrequited. But what I got to feel in the tension of was like, oh, it's my impatience that wants me to say, when are we going to see each other, and what is it going to be, and what are we going to do? But when I just got to sit with, I don't know, and I don't know if our paths are ever going to cross again, if we're just waiting for the moment that feels the richest and the ripest, that I didn't understand this blue, this longing, but I got to feel in that moment that, which I was like, oh, I get to be in the sweetness of longing for something, but I'm actually not waiting for it. Like my life is not on hold. I am just in the, that's out there, and I'm still in the present moment of going around my day. But I had to also, there was the uncertainty of when it's going to happen, but also be like, oh, and I'm going to also acknowledge the impatient part of me that wants to know, and then also let that one kind of take a back seat and say, but that's not what's here.
Yeah.
That's my example of it.
Yeah. So it sounds like the lack of resolution allows you to see something that you value pretty clearly. Okay.
Yeah, there was like this open-heartedness. It was just like, oh, because we did have a moment, and I wasn't in the past going, oh, I want that moment again. It was like, oh, that moment was so rich that I've just been like floating in that moment for months without feeling, and like, so I can be longing for another moment, but also just being like, but no, this is the present one. And if I never see him again, then I got to feel the longing of wanting to see him again. And that in and of itself was the gift.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely think I'm constantly just toggling between, like, knowing that it's okay to want and not have it, not get it, and then really, really wanting it and being uncomfortable, and just it's just a dance, right? It's just a dance going back and forth. And there is something to anticipation. I have this somewhat a famous reputation in my family for anticipation, because I used to get packages in the mail from my mom. She would send me so many packages in college. She was like such a star. And I would get the package and I would wait like 5 days to open it, because I was just like so excited about I wanted to live in the excitement of it sitting there and looking at the package. And my friends would be like, oh my God, why aren't you opening the package? And I'm like, no, I'm just going to wait. It's kind of ridiculous. But there was something there that I wanted to hold on to. So I wonder now, you've inspired me to wonder if I can channel that now for all the shit that I want. It's not quite the same, but
that's really amazing. It's like if Padraig had got his favorite suitcase and then just kind of left it in the Amazon wrapping for a while.
Right. Might have been better for him.
I'll have to ask him about that. I know that one of the bags that he travels with was like, I think it looks like it's made of duct tape or something, or it's like it's really
not
fascinating. Not anymore.
I bet he threw it away.
Possibly. I don't know.
Janelle, do you have something?
Yeah, I just
Janelle,
one little snippet I wanted to add about longing is that Jack Morin, in his book, The Erotic, oh my gosh, I'm going to blank on the name of this book, but it's Jack Morin, Morin, talks about the 5 essentially erotic turn-ons. And one of them is longing and anticipation. Is how we feel alive in that state.
Yes. Oh man. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
And so
Very
then there's
familiar.
nothing wrong with it, right? It's also acknowledging,
Yeah.
oh, what if we just look at it like it isn't actually about the consummation? That it
No,
is
no.
the longing gets to be the thing and the
Yeah.
uncertainty gets to be the thing.
Right. So really, it's just like being turned on and having foreplay for hours and hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Isn't that what we're talking
Yes.
about?
Yeah.
I love it.
At some point, it becomes painful.
Right. Oh, does it? Yeah, I get that. Desire feels like a different word that we're introducing into this, as opposed to the anticipation or the uncertainty.
I think for me, it really is just a sense of both are valuable in their own right. Like you've identified that the anticipation is really is a great way of kind of getting yourself ready for it. Janelle mentioned, the importance of, oh God, I'm completely blanking at this point. What were you just saying, Janelle?
Curiosity, no?
No, about like anticipation and longing is a turn on and helps us feel more alive.
Yeah, yeah, and I would just say that for me, those are things that are valuable in and of themselves, and if I can value that, I think that being able to value uncertainty, or like I like the terms lostness, that those are opportunities. I mean, one of my favorite things, we haven't touched on this, but this does bring it back to Platonic philosophy, incidentally, is what Solnit does say is that she's in the introduction to that book, she's wrestling with the question of that Meno is asked by Socrates, how do you find the thing that you don't know you actually need to find? How do you do that? And that's I find that to be a really fascinating question outside of what Socrates does. He dismantles it. But the point is that in my experience, what I often find in uncertainty or lostness is something that I didn't realize I actually needed to find. And if I had been in familiar spaces the entire time, I wouldn't have gone looking for something that I frankly I had no idea that I needed. And one of the best ways of finding what you don't know that you need, like a key to understanding yourself more is to find yourself is to get lost. So I had a really profound experience one time where I was really feeling like this internal sense of lostness really deeply because of all of the change that was going on in my life, and just everything was turned around. Everything was upside down. It felt like I've likened it to like the Hunger Games, where Seneca Crane, like the game master, rearranges the game going on. Yeah. And it's like I know where I'm at, but I am lost. And so I was in my house, and I had the ability to do it. I was like, I need to get into a woods where I don't know where I am. Unfortunately, in Iowa City, there's a Hickory Hill Park that allowed me to be lost, like in a safe space. So I got turned around in it, and there was this synchronization of my internal world feeling lost with my external world of being like, I've never been here before, and that felt really healthy,
Wow.
And that's been something that has guided me, because I see that there's kind of a bifurcation. I can be in a familiar space and still feel lost. I can be lost, like, metaphysically or, spatially I can be lost, but yet at the same time retain a sense of familiarity and at homeness within myself, and recognizing that that sometimes we're feeling lost simply because we're feeling uncertain about something that could happen. Sometimes we're feeling lost because we don't know what's going on inside of us. Hormones are changing. I mean, the 40s are midlife has a lot of those experiences. And I know as a man, they're nothing compared to menopause. I'm not going to try to compare that at all. But being able to recognize that lostness has a bunch of different forms that it can take, and it also has a bunch of valuable treasures that are out there, and we just don't know we need them, and we don't know what they are until we actually are lost and we stumble across them.
Beautiful. Thank you for that example of Hickory Hill. That's lovely. The synchronicity of that, lost inside and lost outside. Like aligned, like confused but aligned.
Yeah.
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 Beautiful.
Yeah, such a paradox there. Is there anything you would assign to our brave hearts if they were knowing that they needed to build a relationship with themselves or take a better look at themselves? Is there a place you would recommend starting?
There's not a place. You just start. You just start. You trust the process. You trust your ability to get through the process, and you trust that the people and the events that you have along the way are gonna be part of a brilliant story at some point. But yeah, you just start.
Yeah, good answer. Oh, Michael, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you for
so
asking
openly.
me. I saw your email, and I didn't know that you were actually asking me. I thought it was an email. I send out email campaigns all the time. I was like, this is Andrea being, doing her Andrea thing, with permission to be human. And I didn't realize it was, and you're like, yeah, it's for you.
Yes. I'm like, did you see my email? You're the brave heart. You're the
Yeah.
one.
Like, I've got to pay attention to this other than like, this is good email campaigns.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing your truth, your vulnerability, your honesty. And like, there were so many moments of wisdom that to take in. And one of them is that honesty is not a heroic act. It's just that should, but for whatever reason, honesty has been lost in our culture. And so it's just like, we're just trying to make that everyday honesty.
Yeah. It was lovely meeting you, Janelle. I've heard much about you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Bravehearts. Woo! You're going to get Socrates. You're going to get a whole bunch on this.
Totally.
episode.
Greek philosophy, the whole thing. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for listening. We love you. And we'll see you next time.
Hey, Bravehearts, looking for permission? Work with us. We offer Braveheart coaching. Follow us on Instagram.
Meet us in real life at a Braveheart conversation.
Subscribe to our newsletter.
Do all this and more at our website, permissiontobehuman.live.
Bravehearts, it has been a while since I have had a conversation with a learned person regarding ancient Greek philosophy. And this episode is wild because it really, our guest, as a Braveheart, just enlightened me to our whole experience of permission to be human and being human has been a question that has been asked for thousands and thousands of years.
It's true. Michael Scott Overholt. Just wow. Like so many mic drop moments, so much wisdom. What if you were honest with yourself? What if being uncertain didn't mean that you did anything wrong? Mm-hmm. What if you can ask what if and live in the wonder and awe and the blue of longing instead of wanting to close that up, wanting to resolve it, wanting to solve it? What if you can be lost and stay in that lostness? This is what you get today with our Braveheart.
Along with like really, really like honest vulnerability from someone who discloses like parts of himself that he does not like and is willing to share because he hopes that someone else, including his children, will have permission to fuck up too. I mean,
yeah,
really
exactly.
an incredible permission field.
Anyway, oh my gosh, listen to this episode.
Yeah, enjoy.